Okie dokie, folks, and welcome back to Monday Night Shaw right here on Love Wrestling. My name is Kyle Shaw, aka the Canadian Goose, honk, honk, honk. And today on the show is one of my more recent opponents, a man I wrestled in Red Deer for the Canadian Wrestling's Elite. It's Deryck Crosse. How are you doing, Deryck?
Good, Kyle. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. It's I'm glad to have you on here.
Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Right on. Well, right before we started this up, I asked you if you'd done any other podcasts, and you mentioned that this is your first podcast.
It is, yeah. Haven't really searched any of that out, and apparently no one's searching me out either. So you're the first guy to ask.
Well, that surprises me because, I've been around for a little while. And even before I started wrestling, I was ring announcing and stuff. And you've always kind of been around on the scene. How long have you been wrestling for?
Had my first match December 05. So started training with Lance in his first class September that same year. And then, right before end of the year, got on the last Stampede show of 2005 and been going pretty much consistently ever since. Had some obviously time off in between, but I guess what's that now? 17 coming up on 18 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's almost 20 years.
Yeah.
And you said you trained with Lance?
Yeah, so I was in his first class when that first started. So.
Oh, okay. How did that go?
Good. It was a lot of fun. I didn't even know Lance was having a class at the time. So I was in college, decided I wanted to do the whole try wrestling thing. I was trying to get a hold of Stampede Wrestling. Had sent a bunch of emails and just wasn't getting anything back from their website. So I reached out to Johnny Devine, who had was one of the guys who I'd known from Stampede being around, had watched him do some stuff with them and found his email and asked him. And he was basically like, hey, I don't really know if they're doing much right now. And I don't know what to tell you, but I know Lance is starting a school, check him out and send me the link. And I managed to find it that way. So.
Who was in charge of Stampede at that time? Who would have been running those the wrestling school?
As far as I know, Bruce was supposed to be running the classes and stuff at that time. It was Bill Bell was doing the actual Stampede shows, the actual wrestling shows at the time. But Bruce had the wrestling school name at the time.
Okay, so who did you end up wrestling in your first match?
It was Carlo Cannon, who was also in the first class there. So we basically had a setup where he and I, Lance was our guest referee, and it was kind of like we were like a showcase match for the school essentially on the show. I think we basically got booked because he agreed with Bill. He'd be on the show and help try to draw, and that's how we got on the show there. So, which was funny because Carlo too was he had the same kind of. His situation was worse with Stampede. He had actually been told that he could come train, had moved from Australia to come and do it. Got there, went out for, I guess, dinner with Bruce to talk about training. And Bruce basically told him, it's like, yeah, we don't really have a school right now. Don't know what to tell you. Just hang out. When we have something, we'll let you know. and then pay for the wings too, apparently. So
what?
It was pretty funny. Yeah, he moved from Australia to come here and do that. And he got hung out to dry. And that's how he found Lance. So. Pretty funny that way.
Oh boy, that's I mean, that's not funny at all. Actually, that's pretty horrible.
It's funny. It's funny because it worked out for him, right?
Yeah. Did he continue wrestling?
Yeah, he still is. He's back in Australia. He actually has his own school and stuff there as well. And I think he's actually pretty sure he's the school in Australia that people try to go to over there to wrestle with, right? So, so Carlo's been doing pretty well. He's still wrestling and stuff as well. I know he had some injuries over the years, but I think he's doing well now. So
solid. Was there anyone else that we might be familiar with in your first class there?
No, there was only 5 of us in the first class, so it was us 2, and then Sheldon, who was a local guy who I don't think he only wrestled for about a year, and then he stopped. And then there was Jorge from Puerto Rico, who he went for a little while, and then he kind of stopped as well. And then Tellman, which he's kind of pseudo legendary status for just being a really interesting, short, odd French guy that was around for a while, and then he kind of disappeared as well. So there was only 5 of us, but again, only two of us are still doing shows as it is right now. So
Okay.
yeah.
Solid. And so with a lot of guys like your buddy coming from Australia and stuff, did you happen to make any like connections out there? Or have you primarily only wrestled in Alberta?
Primarily Alberta. I've wrestled pretty much like all the provinces, BC out to Quebec. I've done a lot of stuff out down in some of the states in the Pacific Northwest as well, but nothing Australia or anything like that. Carlo was always kind of jumping back and forth here, and then just when it just didn't make the jump myself to try to go back over that way. So.
Oh, so fair enough. But at least you've got to wrestle from everywhere from BC to Quebec. That's pretty cool. Did you do that with Danny Duggan? Did you go on any of those like really super long, like 30 some odd day tours and stuff?
No, it wasn't with him. It was stuff like Ernie Todd when he still had like the Canadian Wrestling Federation going back in the day with him, and then some of the stuff I did too with Condello. Did one of his death tours as well. Those were kind of the way the Quebec one. Even it wasn't like Montreal or anything like that. It was we did these Ernie Todd shows, and we ended up going like north Quebec to a point where it's the highway you go on. You have to tell them when you have to go to like a check stop, say this is where we're going, this is how long we'll be, this is when we'll be back, and they kind of keep track of who's on the highway and where they're going, just because it's so isolated. So we drove to the end of that highway, and then we took planes to get to where we wrestled in Quebec. So
oh wow,
it was basically like northern tip of Hudson Bay there. So cool experience and a really cool town and stuff like that. But it's definitely in the middle of nowhere.
Like it's crazy how like I hear all these stories about these northern death tours, and they seem to happen frequently. Like sometimes multiple times a year. I mean, obviously with the COVID thing, that probably put it on ice for a little while, but it seems like other than that, it seems to be running like many times a year. But it's also like you just hear all these stories of this crazy hardship and whatnot, but like it's got to be like some of the funnest like shows, because like those fans are in these weird places that never get anything, right? Like,
oh yeah, it's intense. It's something for them to do, and it's like when you're not getting much, and a lot of these people unfortunately can't always get out of town and go to do things. So like when wrestling comes to town, especially when you're like northern Manitoba and a lot of these places, some of these shows are just paid for by the town, right? So everyone can come out and watch it, and it's a great time for them to experience something and have a show and have something to do at night. But it makes for great crowds too, right? Because they've never seen it as much. So you can really take your time, have a lot of fun, and really learn how to work a crowd, right? Like you go to some of these places, like one of the shows we did on our death tour. For some people, they know, like if there happens to be like a death in one of the towns, one of the reserves, they cancel everything, right? So you can lose your shows based off of those kind of things, which is understandable. So we had that, and we had like a couple days in between shows, and we ended up just going to a town, and it was like we went to a town, we talked to them, they let us in the gymnasium, and we set up the ring, and they announced over the radio, and it took so it was like a 3-hour decision of, hey, we're going to go here and see. And we started a show with 3 hours later and had 150 people at this show. It's because they announced it over the local radio and came out of nowhere. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah, like so
it's 3 hours notice. I mean, I there's promotions around here that would love to get draws on such small amount of times notice, and we live in like cities with millions of people in them,
Yeah, exactly. So, but they're fun shows, so it's always a good time that way.
Do you have any wild stories of like crazy travel conditions up north or anything like that? Or dealing with the character that is Tony Condello? Like I've only ever heard stories about him, but there always seems to be lots of good ones.
There's always good ones. No, so we would do like a couple quick ones with Tony. Like so Tony would always do like local TV, local radio where he could. and they were doing a show, and they're talking about all the wrestlers on the show, and for some reason obviously Tony has a really thick kind of like French Canadian accent, so sometimes pronunciation doesn't always work the best in his favor. So he went to go say my name, and for some reason he just called me Dukas with my first name. So on like live TV going through the card, he's announced it and he says Dukas, and there's wrestlers behind him, and of course everyone knows, and just the guys trying not to like break face on camera because that's going on, and he's just like talking about the wrestlers on the show and Deryck Crosse, and it's like, I mean, most people don't know my name anyway, so it's probably fine, but
were you the baby face? Or
no, unfortunately I was the heel, and nobody probably even remembered it, but just
you should have just called him on it right there. Get my name right, you punk. I don't know.
I wasn't on the TV at the time, where I probably would have, but it was it's just funny that just like when you're 10 guys in a couple of vans driving in the middle of nowhere and you got nothing else to do, that kind of stuff becomes really funny really quick. So and then Dukas, yeah. And then so we get back and we all went to like Boston Pizza after we got back for dinner, and he's standing there, he starts talking to us about different stuff, and it's like Boston Pizza, we're in the family side of the restaurant, all of a sudden he's just talking, and he like pulls out his cigarette because he's going out for a heater, and he's just standing there, and all of a sudden he just starts lighting his cigarette and just starts talking and puffing in the middle of like Boston Pizza. And like just like watching him, just like doesn't care, nobody cares, like even like the people around him, like just like everybody's like looking at him, but nobody like seems like they're gonna say anything about it, and he's just in his own like world, but it's the most amazing thing to watch at the same time. So
is this just a situation where everybody just kind of knows who he is and they're cool with it? Or
I guess it's just like, hey, who's this weird old French Canadian guy smoking in a restaurant? Somebody gonna say something? And then he just like walks out and does it anyway. So I don't
apparently
know.
No one is. No one's gonna say nothing.
No one's gonna say a thing. Just hawks half of it while he finishes the story before going outside. So
yeah. I really enjoy those stories, man, because you get all kinds of crazy stuff, and they like I say, it's been going on for like, you hear stories from like guys like Jericho and Edge and all them guys too. So like, this stuff's been happening for like 30, 40 years.
Yeah, it has, right? Like, yeah, like because again, that's the one reason why, like, again, you hear Lance talk about doing those tours and stuff like that, and the fun of him doing it with like Don Callis and like Jericho and Edge, all those guys doing it, and it's like, it's a cool story, and it's, if you're gonna wrestle and learn, it's a fun way to do it, right? So definitely interesting.
Did you ever have a chance to go back a few years after Lance's first class and like go back and see any of his future classes and like compare his style of training from when he began to later on down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I helped with some later classes a little bit, and then Lance was always great. Like he always wanted his students to work with guys who had more experience or had kind of worked other places and stuff, so had different ideas on things. So he was always very cool if I wanted to like pop by for a class and help out, or like if they were doing matches and stuff like that, reach out and kind of do that. And he would do that for a lot of guys who had been in his class previously, to have him come by and just work some matches with different people to give him some extra experience. So I got to see a lot of what his progression was that way. So.
And how did his like style change over time?
You know what? It actually stayed fairly consistent. I would say, like, so he had his theory was obviously like he wasn't going to try to wean guys out of the business, that they'll do that on their own. He tried to give everyone the best chance they had. They came, they paid their money, they're trying. He'll try to do that. I think for him, it obviously, like, frustration obviously sets in after a while when you kind of start seeing the same kind of guys who aren't taking it as seriously as maybe other people are. His classes got so big that he would have to start splitting up classes, and he would split them up between guys who were getting it and guys who really weren't. And so he would do the classes, and I found towards the end, he just got more and more honest with people about the prospect of what their future in wrestling is and what they should really look at and think about and doing. So that would be probably the biggest thing I would say, is he probably just became more of a realist for people, which, I mean, if you know Lance, he's always been a realist, so that's saying something, but
Fair enough. I actually don't know Lance. I don't think yeah, no, I've never met him.
Yeah.
I've just heard, I mean, is another character in wrestling that I've heard lots of stories about because I associate with, a lot of folks that have trained with him and stuff.
Yeah, especially in this area, right? There's a lot of guys who have at least done some stuff with him, and he's done a lot around Calgary, obviously too, and based off of his character and his persona over the years too, right? So he's kind of known around here for, obviously, with wrestling a lot. I mean, obviously after Brett, but
yeah, he's definitely made some huge contributions to, like, I mean, like, not only wrestling in general, but especially like Alberta wrestling, because there's just so many guys I know that have either begun their training with Lance or continued it, or
exactly.
And he's well regarded. Like, there's no reason not to. Right.
Well, and I mean, he opened his school right out of doing OVW training, which was the developmental at the time for WWE, right? So, I mean, he was basically bringing the stuff that he was training the guys that were signed to his own school. And, you have his connections, you have his mind and his abilities. It's a great head start. I remember doing some of my first tours for some guys, like, going to Saskatchewan and Manitoba and doing small tours, and you would talk to guys and it'd be like, they didn't understand that, I'd only been wrestling, 3 months, 6 months, and not just me, other guys from other classes too, because the training and the fundamentals that you get from Lance were so different than I think a lot of guys were getting, that it just, like, you were already 2-3 steps ahead of where everyone else is starting from.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I mean, it's one of those things where we're very fortunate around here that we have, like, a guy like Lance Storm. Like, I mean, Saskatchewan is I mean, kind of barren as far as, like, actual, like, wrestling schools go, as far as I'm aware. Like, I mean, there might be 1 or 2 places, but and no offense to anyone there, but, like, you're going to be training with, like, the local Saskatchewan guys who have probably not wrestled for ECW or WWE or WWCW or.
That's just it, right? Even if I was to start my own school, it's like, it's no offense to me, but, like, it's not the same. It's a different point, a different starting point, right? So no matter how much you do it, it's having that leg up, right? It's different.
Is that something you ever gave any credence to or thought about?
Little bit, yeah. I don't know. I enjoy it. I enjoy doing that kind of stuff when I can, but like helping and that kind of thing. But as far as, I mean, starting my own school, obviously, again, like, there's enough guys in Calgary now who have those going right now, where starting a school isn't probably the most financially beneficial way to go. But I mean, I wouldn't say no to opportunities with helping out in any one of those kind of things. I think sometimes I have stuff to offer people. I don't know if anyone else thinks that or not, but
I'm surprised that you're not involved in any of that already. Like, I would have suspected you would already be, like, one of the trainers down at the Alberta Wrestling Academy or the Workhorse Place, or like you were saying, you had connections with Johnny Devine there. They're all those places are training down in Calgary right now.
Yeah, they are.
I'm super surprised they're not taking advantage of your services. And like, are you
at the same time
putting it out there? Like,
I mean, I haven't really put that out there either, right? I mean, I've got my family, I've got my kids and stuff like that, and that keeps me pretty busy too. So I mean, I want to be able to spend time with them and still wrestle, and doing those things take up enough time with life and the job and that kind of stuff in the way anyway. So right now it probably doesn't make the most sense, but who knows?
That's fair. Did you said that Lance had a lot of, like, connections that the students could take advantage of. Did you ever get any opportunities to get like a tryout match with WWE or TNA or any of that jazz like that?
Yeah. Like Lance hooked me up with stuff like that before, with tryouts. One of, like, I mean, it was kind of he did hook me up, and he always helped me out, and he always would, especially like if I was to even ask him for things now. I mean, as long as, again, he'll be honest with you on what he thinks and why and that kind of stuff, but he would still help me out if I asked him to on things, and that way, and probably would. But it was also tough too, because I mean, again, I started in '05, and right before my like WWE kind of was coming out, but not really at that point. And then right before they kind of did, when I would have been ready the first time, was when everything kind of around the Benoit stuff happened, and the WWE kind of disappeared from Western Canada for a while. And so, I mean, and then that was a long wait until they came back before I had an opportunity with that years later. But yeah, Lance definitely did hook me up with my chance where I've had that. And then I did do, I went down to a tryout in the old FCW days as well. So
did you get a chance to like wrestle any big name guys in any like notable dark matches or anything?
No, I didn't get the dark matches. I did the Cody Rhodes was doing the bag over the head gimmick at the time. So me and another guy got to walk down in the suits and hand out the bags and stuff to the fans. So that was my big highlight for that one, which is great, because even like Cody Rhodes is going, he's like the guys who want the bags, like the fans that really want the bags, like, give it to them. It's hilarious because they put it on already for themselves, so they're helping me get this over. Like, it's like, if the idiots want the bags, hand it to them. Don't hand it to the people who don't want it. It's like, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So
yeah, don't fight against the grain, right?
No, exactly. Make it easier on yourself. So
right on.
Yeah.
You recently did have a chance, though, to tangle with the Masterpiece Chris Masters.
Yeah.
How did that go?
Good. I thought it went really well. It was a lot of fun. I wish more people would have seen it, but no, the match itself was.
I got to see it, and I'm sure your son was happy. He was there, and he got to see it.
Yeah, he had a blast.
Pretty happy about the whole thing.
Yeah, Brady loves wrestling, so it was pretty funny to watch him with it. Like, every time, again, he loves watching me wrestle, but he also knows that Dad doesn't win a lot, so it was pretty funny the setup for that, where I had to wrestle Kenny Stryker before and beat him to get the main event match against Masters. Even after I won the match, I came back and he was like, "Oh, that's okay, Dad. You almost won." It was like, no, I actually won. He's like, "Oh, you did? Oh, yeah, you won." And he was like happy. And it's like, wow, I can't even get over with my kid. He doesn't even think I can win when I actually do. But so that made me laugh pretty hard. But yeah, no, the match itself with Masters was a lot of fun, and it was great. And he was super friendly guy, super helpful, and super wanting to work together and help get me over at the same time, right? And sometimes you get some guys who don't want to do much or don't even care, but like, he watched that first match I had with Stryker, and he was like, "Man," he's like, "I know this is going to be easy. This is going to be fun. Let's do this." Mm-hmm. And he like saw stuff I did in the match. He's like, I want you to do that in our match, and we'll figure ways around this. And it made it super easy, because we literally didn't talk until basically like 20 minutes before our match, and put some ideas together and went out there and did it. And so it worked out really well.
Yeah. Some of those situations are interesting when you have to wrestle twice in the same night, for sure. Cause like, if I don't know how you are, but I personally, I'd be like, oh God, what am I doing for this first match? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? And then it's over, and then it's on to the next one. Right.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky in situations like CWE. They're usually like, the second one is just go and have fun for the second one, man. Like, and so like that comes with it a whole different set of stresses. Whereas because you're not putting everything together, you're stressed about like, oh, I hope I don't mess anything up on the fly, but at least I won't forget anything. Yeah,
it's just having that confidence, right? It's funny talking about those early tours I did when with CWF back in the Ernie Todd days. The first tour I went on, which Danny Duggan brought us on, this is before he even had CWE. We were doing the shows, and there was 5 matches on the card, and I had to wrestle in the opening match under a hood against a guy named Mighty Mike Hammer, who was like a little person. Then I would wrestle in the third match as my regular gimmick against another guy, and we would have that match end in like a schmoz, like breakaway kind of thing, and then it would go into intermission, and we would wrestle the fourth match, and the fourth match would be a 6-man, and I'd have to wrestle in that as well. So it'd be like a really small, like 4-match card in these like random nowhere places, and I would be in 3 of the matches. So it's like you had to learn pretty quick that you couldn't plan too much with it, because again, like you don't have the time to plan or to think about things, and sometimes that's not the worst thing. It's just to be able to like not have the time to think about it before and talk about it too much, and just kind of react to stuff in the ring and learn that way. So
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where like I've been put in both situations where we're planning a lot, and it's stressful because you don't want to forget anything and whatnot.
yeah,
And you sometimes you're like, okay, if there's something real big that you're a little nervous about, like then you're psyched out. But then you also like you would just go to the ring and make it up on the fly. Then you really have to rely on your improv skills and stuff, and make sure you don't break any like cardinal rules and whatnot. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So
exactly. And sometimes those are more fun, right? Like a match where you have a bunch of ideas and a bunch of really like cool things put together is always good, and like you can have a lot of fun with it. But sometimes, going out there and not having anything but a couple ideas in your pocket in case you need them is a lot of fun too, right? And especially when you've wrestled a guy, a few times, and you kind of know how they work. You almost kind of can instinctually know what the other person's going for, and it really sometimes really makes for good matches and a lot more fun that way. So
yeah, 100%. Like I like a mixture, like like to have some parts of the match pretty intricately planned, and then some parts of
yeah,
the match where it's just like, okay, then at this point we're just gonna do whatever comes to mind,
yeah, exactly.
But and then like I of course am much more of like I like character stuff and crowd interaction and that kind of stuff over I try and
Yeah.
go out and do a bunch of like really crazy stuff with it's gonna result in me getting hurt.
I would have never guessed that with your gimmick. I would have never thought that that's the way you thought of it.
But I do, like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to be like I don't want people to think I'm a chicken, you
Yeah,
know. So like I will every once in a while bust out something crazy, but it's very much so that people will go, "Oh wow, he did something really nutty," and then it usually doesn't even get that response, and I'm just like, "Hey, check out this thing I did," and people are like, "Yeah, cool."
yeah. Well,
Like,
again, because you can do that, especially with how yours is set up, like with the Canadian Goose. It's like you can do one really cool big thing, and people are like, "Oh, look, he did something cool," but like, I mean, going like honk honk like that with the kids gets you more
yeah.
reaction than 90% of the other stuff that's going on. You know what I mean? Like that
Mhm.
kind of stuff gets you over and it works. And why why take a pile driver on the apron when you can go honk and somebody can squeeze your nose and get the same reaction?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like the goose thing, like I really do enjoy being the Canadian Goose. It makes my day when the whole place starts honking and stuff. Like,
Oh, for sure.
because like I feel like okay, like many years from now, people that are at this show were they're gonna remember the Canadian Goose was there because they all honked and had a
Yeah.
good time.
Well, again, my son's like, saw our match the one time, and he's like in love with the Canadian Goose. Like he loves animals and he loves wrestling. So like everything about your persona is exactly what he loves, and he talks about Canadian Goose all the time. So
Oh
it's like
well,
it works that way, right? So
I definitely appreciate that, and of course, like my favorite people to wrestle in front of are our children and
yeah.
drunk people. One day, I hope to wrestle in front of drunk children, but
Oh, Jesus Christ.
and not yet. Uh, anyway, have you had any other opportunities like to wrestle any other big name guys like Chris Masters and stuff?
Um, Aside from that, I mean, the only other one that I wrestled Cole Cabana back in the day.
Oh, okay.
When he was kind of in the bigger side of these ROH run, I guess that would have been back Geez, probably would have been, 7 or 8 years ago now.
Yeah.
Wrestled him. I had a chance to wrestle Shelton Benjamin, but that fell through over, stupid Alberta politic wrestling that I like get in the way. But really, that's one that I kind of wish I'd have back as well. But those have been kind of it for the most part. Been a lot more just, other guys on the card that way. So have had a chance to wrestle guys that obviously are like big now that weren't at the time. Obviously, like Big Raj, the Monday Maharaja, obviously wrestled him back in the day when he was around with Stampede and that kind of stuff. Prince Pretty, back when he first started, like I brought him out on his first tour back in the day as well. So I've wrestled those guys a ton back when they were, before they got to the level. But as far as guys when they're at that level, not as much.
Huh. Well, again, this is baffling to me that you're not being called upon for training services or anything. Those are some pretty big names. Tyler Breeze is pretty reputable as a trainer himself now, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Does he have his own wrestling school?
Yeah, he's got like flatbacks or something like that now. Which he's always been that kind of guy too. He's always obviously been a really, really smart wrestler and a really smart worker, and he outgrew me pretty quick. So I know he's a great guy that way too. So
did you wrestle with Harry Smith?
I did. I actually did get one match with him as well. As you say that, I had a tag match with him one time for PWA back in the day as well. But I love Harry. He entertains me to no end. He loves the weird, and especially the weird in wrestling. And I don't know, his sense of humor that way makes me laugh a lot. So I did get around, like when I first started with Stampede, him, Natty Neidhart, and Tyson Kidd, TJ were all around and still wrestling with them at the time. So never got to like do like one-on-one matches with any of them or anything like that. But obviously they were kind of around in the locker room at the time too. So.
Yeah, that's wild. Did you hear that Ted Hart is returning to Alberta?
Yeah, what's this, like the 5th time he's trying to do that now?
I don't know. I'm very hopeful that everything goes well and whatnot. I don't like bad things to happen, but it's interesting characters for sure.
Well, he was supposed to be on that Wild Rose show or something, wasn't he? And then now like Heart Legacy or something's coming back for a tour. It looks like I heard. So.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize he was off the Wild Rose show.
I thought I heard he was. Maybe he's not. Maybe I'm wrong. But that's what
okay.
I don't know. Things are changing with that show. I hear it a lot too. So who knows? But
yeah, it's a wild scene right now. There's such an abundance of wrestling in Alberta.
Yeah, almost
were you
too much.
Part of the? Did you do any of that stuff in Strathmore at the wrestling camp days or whatever?
No, I didn't. I heard it went pretty well actually, but I haven't. This summer I've been just so crazy busy with family stuff and work and that kind of stuff that I haven't had a chance to do any of that. And then this month, same thing. And I've got nose surgery actually coming up in a couple of weeks to fix a broken nose from matches like 10 years ago. So I only wrestled, I think, once last month, and I probably won't wrestle again until at least September now. So.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that it's not from your match with me. I didn't hurt your nose. I actually I really enjoyed our match. I showed it to my cousin, who is pretty much the only person I ever show my matches to, and he thought it was one of the better ones I've had. And definitely, if we want to talk about like innovative offense and stuff, like you did this cool famouser thing where you kind of came down with your shin on the back of my neck instead of the back, which was pretty sweet. Where did you come up with that?
It was actually Chris Knight, like Dylan Knight. It was his idea. I don't know why we were wrestling in like PWA in Edmonton one time, and we were talking about different stuff. He's like, oh, you should try doing this or whatever. And he gave it to me as like a throwaway thing I did one time, and it looked really cool, and it gets a good reaction. So it's an easy move. So I just kept doing it. So I think, he used to play, excuse me, like Aussie football back in Australia, and apparently it's like the knee thing's kind of like a knee up kind of thing that they do a lot on people's backs to like catch the ball or whatever. And so that's where he got the idea from. And basically, yeah, it was like he gave it to me, and it was just it looks cool, and just decided to keep doing it. So
I thought you were going to tell me that they used the back of their knees to drive each other's heads into the ground in this like hardcore soccer league. And I was like, I might need to check out some soccer.
Yeah. Well, it's AFL, right? It's like Aussie rules football or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's like kind of like, yeah, that sport's intense compared to even like rugby sometimes. But yeah, that's where the idea came.
XFL of Australian football,
pretty much, and it's big. It's huge over there too. So yeah, and I just kept using it. And anytime I can use something that's cool and doesn't require a lot of like craziness to it and gets over, you might as well keep doing it. So did that, and then when you can come up with a fun name for it too, it always makes it easier. So
do you have a fun name for it?
It's the Nearly Famous. It's a play on the famouser and the knee. It's one of those ones. It's like The Simpsons with the B sharp. It's like it sounds funny the first time, and then it's less funny every time you say it. But
Nearly Famous. It's like I was thinking about Almost Famous, and there's a film called Almost Famous. I think it's about groupies or something. I can't remember.
But.
I also really like your clothesline backbreaker thing. At least I really like the fact that you did it to me, and then some guy in the crowd was like, "You killed him!"
Yeah, again, another one that just like looks really cool,
thankfully, but I hope it looked like he did. Yeah.
No, and that's another one too where I know someone was telling me that someone else has done it before, and I don't know where I came up with the idea to try it. Like I used to do, like I used to do like a short arm into like basically like rock bottom on the knee, and then it just kind of turned into this. And I don't know,
that's cool too.
I don't know why it came from there, but yeah. So, but
just like a one snapping motion.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's an easy bump for the guy, but because of just the way you snap onto it, it looks really cool and it happens really quick. And I think a lot of times, like it's like anything, right? Like with the moves, if it snaps and it looks quick and fast, like that's how you can get a good reaction out of a lot of stuff, right? So
yeah, 100%. Is there anyone in Alberta that you've yet to face that you really are clamoring to?
Like for guys that are kind of still active around, no, I think I've kind of at least had a chance at everybody. There's guys that would be fun to kind of work more again. I always joke with Metal about working with him again, because he used to be I joke with him that he used to be no bump Metal, and now he's big bump Metal, and he like it would be a different match and stuff like that this time than we wrestled last time. But for the most part, I think I've kind of wrestled most guys. It'd be fun to still obviously wrestle certain guys again now that Bobby's healthy and back. It would be fun to get back in there with him and do some more with him and that kind of stuff. And there's a bunch of guys that are always fun, but I think for the most part, I think the one guy who I haven't wrestled yet, who always I think would have a lot of fun with because he seems to have good ideas, would be Jack Pride. Haven't had a chance to wrestle him yet, but he's younger. But as far as kind of guys who have been around for a little while, I think I've had my chance at least with everybody. So
nice. I also have yet to have a chance to wrestle with Jack Pride and Bobby Sharp. There's got to be a long line of people that are wanting to get their hands on Bobby Sharp right now. You know? Oh
yeah, it seems that way, right? So yeah,
he had a really good match with T.Y. Jackson. At the Love Wrestling show, yeah, and Pride's match against Son of Irish. Did you see the finish for that?
I haven't. No, I haven't had a chance to watch any of that stuff. I'm not TikTok friendly as they.
Okay. Well, things, so. Yeah. I mean, it was posted on the Twitter, but like the Son of Irish goes for the shooting star press, and Jack Pride gives him the code breaker out of midair. It's it was very impressive, and okay. There's the one I'm not going to forget from this show.
Yeah, that's good timing.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. it was pretty incredible, for sure. So, do you have any big matches coming up on your docket? Do you have anything that you're currently scheduled for?
No, yeah, like again, like I said, with kind of with how busy my summer's been, and then the no stuff coming up, I haven't really booked much because again, I don't know what the timeline for recovery is. I know it's not much more than like a month, but I don't know, and so kind of just waiting to see where everything falls and everything lies before I kind of start planning that out. But I know I'll have those kind of things started to be figured out here soon. But right now, just gonna take a little time and maybe make people miss me a bit.
Well, I have heard that you know, there's the old saying, "How can you miss me if you never go away?" or something like that.
Exactly.
In wrestling, and I mean, you do find like sometimes like with if I've been on shows like in Edmonton every single weekend, and then you have to take like a couple of weeks off, and then you show up again, you get kind of a warm welcome, which is
Yeah.
always nice. Uh, Alrighty. Well, with you not having any big matches coming up, I do hope that your nose surgery goes well.
Appreciate
I
that.
would like to say that like again, I wrestled you in Red Deer, and I think we had a tremendous match. And I would love to wrestle you again, whether it be in Red Deer or Edmonton or wherever. And for Canadian Wrestling's Elite or whoever, you know, like. I would definitely like to see you come back to RCW and do more crazy stuff with us. But you know, there's all kinds of great places to wrestle right now, and I would love to cross paths with you on any of them because it was fun.
Bring it on. Yeah, no, I liked our match a lot too. It was a lot of fun. It was really good balance. I think where we found a good work between kind of working the crowd with the gimmicks and then actually the actual substance in the match. It worked out really well, and it was fun. I think there's a lot more good stuff that we could do doing that kind of stuff over again. So just get me booked and I'll be there.
100%. Like I have definitely mentioned your name to Squig a time or two for sure.
Guy just has to return my text messages when I send them. That's all.
Yeah, 100%. I don't know if he watches this or not. I have no idea.
Well, let's find out.
Yeah. If you end up on RCW shows against me, then we'll know that, you know.
Yeah. Well, if you get some messages, you get some messages.
If I say, "Oh, did you?" Yeah, something like that. You know, I have a feeling it would be something like he would just book it on the off chance, and then I'd be like, "Oh, did you watch our Monday Night Shaw?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, totally did." And meanwhile, no, he didn't.
No, not a chance.
But anyway, Deryck, you're always a pleasure to speak to, and somebody I like to see in the locker room, and somebody I enjoyed tremendously competing with. So I
appreciate that.
I do hope we get to do something like that again, and I want to thank you for coming on the show today and being a part of Monday Night Shaw. Yeah. And is there anything else that I've neglected to ask you about that I should have asked you about?
No, I think that kind of covers it. It's a pretty thorough investigation there. We chatted about everything. I think that covers it.
Okie dokie. Well, I hope you had fun here doing your first podcast. One of the things that we often do on podcasts at the end of the show is I'm going to give you the stage now to just plug your social medias and whatnot. So where can people get a hold of you if people would like to, speak to you, or even if they want to book you on the show or whatnot?
I guess the easiest way to do that would be through with the Twitter there at Crostitute1. On that, message me through there. It'd be the best.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Crostitute.
Okay.
Have we never discussed this on the name of the fans, Deryck Crosse, the Prostitutes?
No, I think I saw you wearing a T-shirt that said that once, and it really it tickled me, but I wasn't aware that was your social media presence. That's awesome.
So that's an old Brady Roberts or Brady Malibu thing. He started calling my fans prostitutes, so that's where that would be. So it's like Cross with an E on the end. So Prostitutes1 is the Twitter, and through there is the best way to find me for any of that kind of stuff.
Okay, solid. I'll have to get whomever edits this episode of Monday Night Shaw to put it down there at the bottom in text so everybody can actually read it too. Because yeah, it's popping me. Alrighty,
Yeah.
buddy. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Anytime. I appreciate you having me.
Right on, man. Thank you very much, and say hello to your little boy there from the old Canadian Goose, Hong Kong.
I will. He'll be excited for that for sure.
Okie dokie, brother. Thank you very much.
You too. Yeah, thanks, man. Take care.